White Earth officials have released a statement in response to the recent purchase of land in Moorhead. They bought 280 acres of land near the Highway 336 exit, reportedly to build a casino and convention center. The Tribal Council says they're always looking for opportunities to diversify their economic initiatives, including housing, education, business development, and cultural enrichment. They said at this time, any speculation regarding specific projects, including gaming facilities, is premature. You can read that full statement on valleynewslive.com.
Concordia College is set to kick off its inaugural women's flag football season this spring as part of an initiative spearheaded by the Minnesota Vikings. The other participating schools in their league are Augustana, Gustavus Adolphus, Bethel University, the University of Northwestern in St. Paul, and the University of Wisconsin Stout. The Vikings are providing $140,000 in funding to help get this league off the ground. Teams will compete in what they call a series of jamborees in April before a championship tournament April 26th in the Twin Cities.
New at 6, the landline shuttle service from Fargo's Hector International Airport to the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport will end its services March 17th. The company tells Valley News the move is part of a fleet and operational change. The service began in March 2023 as a way to connect Fargo travelers to MSP 5 days a week. Travelers also had the ability to check bags in Fargo.
Just a couple hours, President Trump will address a joint session of Congress and the nation for the first time since his return to the White House. The speech expected to outline his domestic agenda, including the aggressive cutting down of government programs through DOGE, as well as border patrol and, of course, the administration's role in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and the tariff trade war. We'll break down all of that for you tonight on Valley News Live at 10. You can watch that speech tonight at 8 right here on Valley News Live as well.
Coming up in sports, the Bison men's basketball team getting ready for postseason play against a team they just saw a week ago, the University of South Dakota. Hear from the Bison about this familiar opponent next in sports.